Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to crochet this cute little pumpkin. And as you can see, you can make this in so many different colors and with so many different types of yarn. So the yellow one is super chunky yarn, the green one is made with blanket yarn, and so is the white one. So it's like the furry, fluffy blanket yarn. But the one thing they all have in common is that I use a size 5 bulky yarn. So they're all different brands and all different feels. Some of them are furry, some of them are, I've even made them in velvet. You can make them in anything, but just make sure for this, I'm using a size 5 bulky, and that matters because that will change the crochet hook you're using. So I'm going to be using a size J crochet hook, and I'll also be using some scissors and a little yarn needle. You'll also need some stuffing to stuff your pumpkin, okay? So to start out with this pattern, we're going to make a little slip knot. And then I'm going to chain 12. So here's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And now I'm going to start by making a single crochet in the second chain from my hook. Just like that. And now in the next 9 chains, I'm going to do half double crochets. So here's a 1 half double crochet, 2 half double crochets, here's a 3 and a 4. A little bit of dog hair on here. Here's a 5 and a 6. Here's 7, 8, and here is my 9th half double crochet. And now in the very last chain, I'm going to do another single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to start row 2, and instead of stitching into the entire stitch from the previous row, I'm going to be working into the back loops only. So from here on out, every stitch is going to be worked in back loops only. So I'm going to start with a single crochet in the back loop only. And then I'm going to once again do 9 half double crochets all the way across. And here's 2 half double crochets. Here's 3 half double crochets. There's 4 and 5. Here's 6 half double crochets and 7 and 8 and 9. Here's my last half a double crochet. And now in my last stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet again in the back loop only. And now to start row 3, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn. And now I'm just going to repeat that row that I just did, row 2. So a single crochet, 9 half double crochets, and then a single crochet and a chain 1 turn. And you're going to repeat that until you have a total of 14 rows. All right, so continue on, and I will see you on row 14. I am now on my last couple of half double crochets on row 14. Here's my last half double crochet, And then in the very last stitch, I'm going to put my single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1, and now we're going to connect our pumpkin together. So I'm folding it in half so that my starting chain and my last row worked are together. And I'm going to find the back loop of my last row, and then I'm going to hook into the starting chain, and then I'm just going to yarn over and slip stitch. Now, whether you go through 1 loop or 2 loops of your starting chain is up to you. As long as you just slip stitch on through there to connect your ends, you are totally fine. One of the things I love about this pattern is that pumpkins are very forgiving. Chunky yarn is very forgiving. Whether you go through 1 loop or 2 loop of your chain, it's not going to matter. Also, you know, when you're working your actual rows, if you accidentally go through both loops instead of back loop only, it is not the end of the world. Your pumpkin is still going to look beautiful. So yay for pumpkins and all their imperfections. They're still going to be fabulous when you're all done. So I'm just continuing on down, going through the back loop of my last chain worked, and then, or my last row worked, and then through my beginning chain. And this will stitch our pumpkin closed so that we're left with kind of like a tube, like a little, just a little pumpkin that has not been closed up yet. And here's another little slip stitch. You also have the option, if you didn't want to do this, you could totally whip stitch this closed, but I feel like you've already got the yarn on your hook. Let's just slip stitch it closed. You know what I mean? Here's the very, very last one. Pull that little slip stitch through, and now we can loosen up our loop and cut our yarn kind of long, because we're going to use this tail to cinch the end of our pumpkin closed. And we're going to turn our little tube inside out so you don't see all the stitches of the slip stitch. And you can see how we have cool little ridges now. Since we went through the back loops of each row, it kind of creates a sort of a ridged effect that makes our pumpkin like super textured. All right, so I am threading my long end of yarn through my needle, and this is where we get to cinch our pumpkin together. So I'm going to go in through the other side and then back through this side just to kind of secure my pumpkin. Now we're just going to go up and down through, I guess this would be the side of the pumpkin, right? No, this would be the side of our stitches that we worked, but the bottom of our pumpkin. And we're just going up and down that side. And then when we pull our yarn through, it's going to gather that side together so it's all closed up and cinched. So just continue like that, just through the little end, up and down to gather our little pumpkin closed. And I'm going to get as close as I can to the other little end of yarn that I have there, because I'm going to use it to tie my little ends together. So when you get to that beginning piece, as close to, that would be your starting end of yarn, get as close to that as you can so that you can pull your yarn as tightly as you can. You need that hole totally closed so your stuffing doesn't come out. And now you can tie this end of yarn to your beginning yarn in a square knot, left over right, right over left. And then we're going to hide these ends in our pumpkin. So this one's already threaded. I'm just going to run it on back through there so it hides inside our pumpkin. And then for the other end, I'm going to grab my hook and just pull it on through so that I don't have to thread my needle. There we go. Just hide that end up in there. And now we're just going to kind of put this to the side because we need to make the stem for our pumpkin. And there's so many different ways that you can make a stem, but I'm going to make it kind of similar to the way that we made our pumpkin. So I'm going to grab whatever color you like. Just make sure it is also bulky and chunky. This one's a gray, kind of tweed kind of color, and I'm just once again going to make a little slip knot, and then I'm going to chain. You can make it as long or as short as you like, but I'm making my chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That sounds good. Now in the second chain from your hook, we're going to do a single crochet. So there's 1 single crochet. Here's 2 single crochets. Here's 3 single crochets and 4. Now I'm going to just chain 1 and turn. And now I'm going to do 4 single crochets back up this row. And I'm going through both loops, okay? So we're not doing back loops only on the stem. You could if you want to, but it's so small, I don't know if it would really make much of a difference. I don't know if you'd notice. So this is row 2, and we're just doing our 4 single crochets up. And then, oh, that last one was tough to get through. Chain. I'm going to chain 1 and turn once again. And I'm going to do a 3rd row of single crochets. And then, move over yarn. Here's my 4th single crochet, chain 1, turn. And then we're going to do our last row. So this is just 4 little rows of single crochets. The stem is pretty small, so this is fast and easy. And now I'm going to pull my yarn out and use my needle to sew, because I'm going to need to thread that needle anyways. I'm going to use it to cinch my pumpkin closed. But first, let's thread this needle. And then, this yarn is sometimes really tricky. I have a yarn needle threader, but I never know where it is, so. Okay, now we're just going to fold this little stem in half once again, kind of like we did the pumpkin, but this time we're whip stitching it. So again, if you like, you could actually whip stitch your pumpkin like this, but I just slip stitch mine. But this is good because it shows you 2 different methods that you could close up a rectangle to make a tube. So you've got options with this pattern. All right, and now we're leaving this tail a little bit long because we're going to use it to cinch our pumpkin closed. But first, let's put a little stuffing in this guy. So I'm just using regular polyfill, and you can stuff it as much or as little as you want, depending on how soft or how firm you want it. So I'm using about 2 little handfuls for my pumpkin. And once I've got it stuffed to how I like it, I'm going to grab this stem yarn, and I'm going to once again go up, down, through the side of that pumpkin, which is now the top of the pumpkin, but it was the side of our rectangle. And we're just going to cinch this little pumpkin closed. So just up, down, try to make sure your stuffing's staying in there, not popping out of the top of your pumpkin. Just a little up, down. Get all the way around. And once again, I'm going to get as close as I can to my little starting yarn so that I can secure it with a little knot again. So pull it as tight as you can and get it as close as you can to your starting yarn. Pull, pull, pull. Cinch it tight. And then let's make a little square knot. Little left over right and a right over left. Now our stem's kind of like, not very secured on there. So we've still got this yarn on our needle. We are going to stitch a little into the pumpkin and then a little into the side of the bottom of our stem. And we're going to do that all the way around so that all of the bottom edges of our stem are secured onto our pumpkin. Just round and around. So this pumpkin pattern is so fun because you can make it in all different colors. You know, when you go to the pumpkin patch and you see green and yellow and white and orange pumpkins, I just love that. And all the different shades of orange. So now you can see that our pumpkin is kind of tall and we want it to be squat like this. So we're going to take our yarn and we're going to bring it through the center of our pumpkin all the way through down to the bottom. And then we're going to pull it so that it cinches our pumpkin and makes it a little shorter and squat. Gives you that cute pumpkin shape instead of a big tall apple shape, you know. But again, you can make your pumpkins in all different shapes and sizes because pumpkins come in all different shapes and sizes. We're going to run that yarn back up and then we're going to pull it to secure that little squat kind of a shape to it. And then once again, I've got this starting yarn. I'm going to tie it to secure that little shape onto my pumpkin so it stays that way. And now I just need to run my yarn down into my pumpkin so that I can hide that end. And this one too. Oh, this one's going to be kind of hard to thread because it's a short little end. Oh no. Try to pull it through there best you can, and then I like to do this instead of just cutting the end right there because it just makes it a little more secure rather than having a short end right next to the knot that we just made. Just bring it all the way down through to the bottom and then we can cut it on the other side if we need to. That one was so short I don't need to cut it, but this one I need to cut. And then, oh, look at our little pumpkin is done. He's so cute. Cute little pumpkin. So once again, let me show you all the other colors that you can do this in. There's a dark orange and with a lighter stem, but you can go for the pretty like a farmhouse look too with the whites and the greens. I like this yellow one. It's kind of cool. It's a very chunky yarn too. It's looks like a cool gourd. So yeah, there's a blanket yarn one and another blanket yarn. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you make lots of pretty pumpkins in all different colors. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.